When I was in elementary school, we had a class called Computer Lab. In it, we learned how to type and played educational games. I don't know if such a class even exists anymore, but back in the mid-2000s, this was something that they thought would be worth teaching to us kids. During these classes, there was some downtime, either before the class had started or towards the end when the assignment or programs were finished early. This is when the tech-savvy kids flexed their muscles and started telling everyone about these cool websites where you could play Flash games. If you were a kid during these times, you probably remember sites like Newgrounds and Addicting Games. One that was popular for my school was Miniclip. On this site is where my classmates and probably many others around the world found a game called Club Penguin. At its core, Club Penguin was just a free-to-play virtual chat room with little cartoony penguins as avatars. It was also an Adobe Flash game and had strict chat moderation since it was marketed towards children. There were other games within the game, but they were essentially as simple as other Flash games you'd find online. It was cool to have them housed in something connected though. But anyways, there was no real purpose or end goal to Club Penguin. You waddled around and made new friends, as the slogan went. Released in 2005, Club Penguin was developed by a Canadian company called Rocket Snail Games and originally began as a series of test games in the early 2000s known as Penguin Chat, the most popular of which likely being the third one, which was evidently closest to what eventually became Club Penguin. The game was famously acquired by Disney in 2007, after which the art style started to change a bit and cross-promotion of Disney material made its way into the game. There was still a lot of content up until the game's closure, so as much as we like to blame Disney for blowing it up 10 years later, who knows if it would have made it that far under someone else. Like with the other Disney MMOs that were discontinued, most of them live on as free-to-play private servers. Club Penguin's most popular server used to be Club Penguin Rewritten, but their creators somehow got themselves in legal trouble, so that one no longer exists. Nowadays, there are several private servers, but I believe these are the most popular. They are Club Penguin Journey, Club Penguin Legacy, and New Club Penguin. Since the game changed throughout the years, each server has a different philosophy on what era of the game they wanted to emulate. For example, here is one of the game's locations, the Plaza. Over the years, it got overhauled quite a bit. Around the middle years, they added a stage. Then, closer to the end of the game's run, the stage was replaced by a pet hotel and a mall. New Club Penguin emulates the later years of the game, so they have the hotel and the mall, while Club Penguin Journey emulates the middle years, so it has the stage. There's also a very noticeable difference in art style, and many players had a preference towards one or the other. For this video, most of the footage was shot in Club Penguin Journey, which was familiar to me and seemed to be the most populated. So how the game worked was you'd create a penguin, then join a server. Back then they were regionally based, but you could hop around to any server you wanted, although it made sense to stay in your country since the connection would be better and servers would be populated according to your time zone. Once connected, you'd get crapped out into one of the locations or rooms in the world. At least that's how it used to work. These private servers utilize a welcome room, so you always spawn here instead. It turns out this was a cancelled room from the original game, which is why the art looks so good. Every room was just a static image with some interactive elements on it. Outside of the events, I believe there are around 40 rooms in total. Some of them are accessible via the map, while others require you to walk into them. For example, if I wanted to go to the coffee shop, I would first have to go to the town and then walk into it. You use your mouse and click to move your penguin around, and at the bottom is a toolbar with several options to communicate. This included emoticons, actions, quick phrases, and a chat bar. My favorite was doing a secret key combo to do this musical note. Sounds like a fart. Each penguin has a house or igloo fit for customization. You'd start off with a basic and small looking one, but you could upgrade the shell to something more extravagant. Players got really creative with the furniture and came up with some really awesome stuff. Your friends could visit your igloo at any time, even if you were offline. But if you wanted to throw a party with randoms, you could either send out invites or add the igloo to the server's map. Then you'd have to stand in the town square and advertise like a paperboy in the 1800s. You could also send postcards to other penguins to invite them to specific places. The friend system was probably the biggest weak point in the entire game. On the server selection screen, there was a little emoji beside the server name. If it was colored, it meant that you had a friend on the server. This was the only way of telling if someone was online. If you were on a different server, then they would just appear offline on your friends list. And even if you did get on the same server, you could only chat with them if you were in the same room. There was no whisper or private message mechanic. At least you were able to find what room they were in using this little finder button. Toontown had it the best, where no matter where you were, server, location in game, etc., all that info was accessible via the friend menu. And on top of a working whisper mechanic, you could actually teleport directly to the player. So aside from talking to penguins, the other main thing was dressing yourself up. To do this, you either had to pay the subscription to become a member or collect free items during events. With a membership, you got access to the clothing catalog and advanced igloo customization, purely cosmetic stuff. The catalogs would rotate once a month and items would come and go, so even the members had to deal with some FOMO. I'm not liable to say whether the price was reasonable or not, but I do remember it being cheaper than Toontown, for example. But unless you wanted to look cool, I don't recall there being that many things that were member exclusive, aside from certain rooms during the events, but for the most part you could go anywhere in the world and play most of the minigames for free. However, getting a membership wasn't the only step to obtaining all the cool clothing, as you also needed in-game currency to buy them. This is where all those games within the game come in. Scattered around the world are several simple but iconic games that will earn you some coin for playing them. Wearing certain items and then hitting the dance or wave emote would have custom animations, lending you various opportunities to enhance your roleplay. You could also get pets, these little living fuzzballs called puffles. They'd live in your igloo, but you could take it out with you and it would be attached to your penguin. You'd have to feed it, and if you failed to take care of it, after a while it would run back into the wild. There's actually a minigame in the pet shop where you round up a bunch of wild puffles, essentially returning them to the store's stock. A bit of interesting world building, I guess. And that's really the crux of the gameplay. Basically boils down to minigames, dress up, and RP. Maybe not super exciting, but remember this was a glorified virtual chat room made for kids. One of the best things about this game were the events, which they called parties. They pretty much hit every major seasonal festivity as well as several other themed ones in between those. This is where these static backgrounds worked in the game's favor, since decorating up the place just meant a new background image. The parties also provided an opportunity for free players to acquire new cosmetic items. In the beginning, these party items weren't recycled at all, introducing a severe case of FOMO. If you couldn't log on to get them, then you'd be out of luck because next year the events would be different. Parties generally came with some new music too, equally as memorable as the ones from the base game. This is a major core memory for me. I was only allowed to play video games on weekends starting on Fridays after school. I'd rush my ass home and hop on the computer and spend that entire evening exploring the changed rooms. I still went to bed at a respectable time, but next morning I'd be up before dawn getting ready to play some more. Even if I had an 8 AM hockey practice, I'd be up at 6 playing some Club Penguin. On the game's anniversary, October 24th, the game had a one-day party in the coffee shop where you could pick up a special party hat to commemorate the event. I remember the first year I missed it since it was a weekday, and I was so upset that the next year I begged my parents to let me log on just to get the hat. It was yellow and orange, and it was one of my favorite items in the game. I really can't say enough good things about these parties. They were so varied and the atmosphere was so fun. There'd also be these rare sightings to see mascots like a pirate penguin named Rockhopper and the news reporter Antarctic. Sometimes a moderator would be around, or even one of the game's creators such as Arsnail and Billy Bob. I think Club Penguin is one of those generation definers. You just had to be there, and I feel a bit sorry for those that never got to experience it during the original run. Naturally, I associated the game with winter, and the Christmas parties were always my favorite. My penguin was named Toucannon, named after one of the bosses from the Metroid Prime DS game. In some odd miracle, I was actually interviewed in penguin form and put on YouTube nearly 16 years ago, making this the only documented footage of my penguin. Cat Lopi47CP, hopefully you're out there alive and well, and I just want to say thanks for this. You captured some history right here. There's just so many things I remember about this game, like when the dojo and iceberg were secrets on the map, when ninjas were just a rumor, and then the avalanche happened and the dojo and ninjas became official. I remember the first time they added a new penguin color into the game. They had a members-only party at the dojo, and I was super butthurt because I wasn't a member, so I couldn't get in. Remember becoming a secret agent? How tipping the iceberg was a myth? Then towards the end of the game's life, they actually added it to the game? Remember how some items were hidden in the catalogs, such as the Secret Deluxe Stone Igloo? I even remember taking part in the Club Penguin Improvement Project and being awarded a red mining hat afterwards. These days the private servers are pretty good, and the world feels nice when populated. Some of them appear to use ads, which is grounds for a C&D termination, so kinda risky on their part. But anyways, just like with Toontown and the other Disney MMOs that have been resurrected, it's cool that the game gets to live on thanks to these servers. Now to be honest, actually playing the game to get all this footage was kinda boring. But even so, it was nice just experiencing the game again and letting all the memories seep in. It's pretty fascinating that a simple game like this can have such a lasting legacy. Part of that is probably because it was easy to access. It was free, and even though computer gaming might not have been common, most families had at least one computer, and as long as you could get on the internet, you could probably get the game running. A lot of kids, especially if they had older brothers, likely moved on to more mature titles, as the late 2000s was a treasure trove of legendary games. The original Modern Warfare, Halo 3, and GTA 4 just to name a few. Plus, now that you've seen how the game is, you can imagine that it'd be pretty easy to just get bored of it. But I ended up playing this game on the side for a long time, longer than most of my friends did. It eventually became juvenile, but I think I found it comforting. And in realizing that, it kinda makes me sad. I don't know if I've ever been as happy as I was during my prime Club Penguin years. Okay, that's probably not true, but you know what I mean. There's just a blissful happiness that comes with being a kid, and combining that with this game was absolutely peak. I wonder if kids in the current generation will look back at games like Fortnite, Roblox, and Minecraft the same way people my age look back at Club Penguin. To the folks at New Horizon, Rocket Snail, and Disney Interactive, thanks for making Club Penguin what it was, and hopefully we'll get to see the IP again someday. That does it for this video, thanks for watching.